So I'd like to welcome Rob, Lucy, and sharing also with us David. They all work in different areas of our work. And what we're talking about tonight is not any particular area of work, but informed by what we do. Let's start off by asking you, David, not because you sat, what hope means to you. When I say a word like hope, it's a big word, it's a massive Christian word. What do you understand by it?
It is a good Christian word, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And it's a word that reminds me that I have something that is outside my experience, like something that is beyond me. I have something that is calling me beyond my current experiences, the experiences of those that I work with. I have I keep wanting to use the word hope to explain hope. I know that's not good English, but there is something that is bigger than me, bigger than my experience, bigger than this world. And that, of course, is Christ and the hope of glory. But that's what it means to me. It means that what I encounter in the here and now is not all that there is.
Lucy, what does hope mean to you, not just now as a definition, but when it's spelt out in what we do? What does hope mean to you?
Well, I was just thinking about that because I noticed on some billboards, I think Lifeline are using the acronyms HOPE. I drove past, so I only saw hold on. I don't know, maybe somebody else in the audience might know what the P in the E stood for. But when I drove past, I thought, yeah, I can see that in all of our ministry areas that we're in, that sometimes we're holding on with the person who's holding on at the time. So that's what hope
So there's two
means.
sides to it then, and
Yes.
both are trying to do that. Rob, when we're dealing with people who might appear to have little hope, what can we say to them positively as a Christian community?
That's hard. And in that context, I've heard someone take the mickey out of hope. In fact, it was in this building, not someone from Wesley, but someone talking about the propensity for Christian organisations to call their services hope this, hope that,
Yes.
hope sanctuary, hope rehab, hope. And it was kind of funny, but it was embarrassing, but also troubling, because the joke was that hope is vain, and who wants to sign up to something like a lottery, in the hope that you might win.
Sure.
And hope needs to have so much more substance than that. And to bring that to the question, I think in the first instance, sometimes we need to have hope on behalf of people and to carry it for a while until they can catch it as well. To be prepared to have hope when they won't or can't, in a better circumstance in life, certainly in an eternity that matters, and sometimes to help them identify small ways in which that hope has substance. Sometimes there are things going on in our lives and it's difficult to notice that it's growth, or difficult to notice that it's God's hand, and to be able to point to a couple of those things can be an important way of helping build hope in someone at this moment.
I mean, I like the idea that hope has to be broken down, not just so much into manageable pieces, but in terms of how people can respond to it. Sometimes if we were to give them this big sermon on hope, I mean, that's not going to do very much for many people. But Lucy, when somebody's looking for hope, what pieces do you think make most sense to folks?
Depends where they're at. I think many of us can speak on a personal level where we've found hope in difficult circumstances. And sometimes we're in a place where that's all we have. And I think we see that a lot in some of our friends that our community who, are part of the body, and sometimes they don't know Jesus yet. And I think the ways that we can show hope, not necessarily from a platform, but would be through, kindness and just, how are you? And taking a real, genuine interest in that person because God loves them.
David, we embrace at Wesley Mission the whole gamut, if you like, of human experience from the beginning to the end. We work with children and families where there needs to be intervention and help and support. We also work with older people. I mean, is there a cutting of hope at every level, or is it harder as people get older to talk about hope?
I don't think so. I think, in fact, I work, 3/4 of my work is with elderly congregations. And it seems to me that the older they get, the more they want to make sure that there is some hope that this is not all there is. And so that will get expression sometimes in investing in grandchildren, or some cause or some reflection on their life. But I will want to say to them all the time, well, those things are good, but I want to anchor my hope in Christ. I want to anchor my hope in something that I, by faith, know is eternal, will take me beyond this. So I also work with disabled people, and hope for them very much is, this may sound sacrilegious to say, but in some sense hope gets embodied in me. That they look to me and say, well, if David has hope, maybe I can. Not that I'm a shining example, but for them, I embody the gospel for them. As you were saying, Rob, like on their behalf, I like that phrase that you used, on hope on someone else's behalf. And in a sense, I do that with elderly and the disabled people. Hold on to hope and embody hope, and not in a perfect way, but I continually hold up before them a message that this hope is worth hanging on to.
Taking the point that Rob made, but pushing it a bit further, some people have been damaged in this world by the way people have treated them. And I often think when you're preaching the gospel, speaking the gospel, or serving the gospel, and we do all those makes, that we're often speaking hope into damaged situations, really. Did you encounter that?
Daily. And it's easy working in homelessness to see that daily, but I'm not sure that there's a sense in which that's an exaggerated experience of what is happening day to day in anyone's life. There's damage of some kind in any of us. We've all had a hope in something and been let down. I don't know if this is helpful, but this afternoon was a kid's birthday party, and it was rock climbing, and they're little kids, and they thought that getting up 1 metre, 2 metres was as far as they could get until someone went higher, until someone reached the roof. And then all these little kids that, even some with difficulties physically, who couldn't get beyond the metre and a half, were touching the roof. And I could say that that's competition, but I don't think it was. I think it was someone doing it showed them that it could be done. Expectations were raised. If they can, maybe I can. And your reference to, wasn't quite being nice to people, but it was the warmth and that kind of thing that you mentioned. And the knitted blankets. We can buy blankets and we can give them to people, and we do that. But a knitted one communicates a whole lot of things that a bought blanket doesn't. And it's difficult to we shouldn't underestimate the power of a thought that in this circumstance that I'm in at the moment, and the disconnect that I'm feeling, that there are people, communities who I don't even know, who don't even know me, who are going to length to do something for me. It carries a love and a warmth and a whole lot of other hopeful messages that I think are helpful in this context.
Do you know, we could sit here all night and talk because it's a very interesting conversation, but I want each of you to kind of encapsulate, beginning with Lucy, encapsulate an example of hope that you've seen and has changed somebody's life.
You've put me on the spot.
I'm pleased Lucy went first.
None of this is rehearsed. You'll realise that. You can tell
We
that.
did
but-
not know what the questions were going to be. Most recently, I would think of probably a gentleman my age, has been homeless and stayed in a boarding house. And he was, over the months, speaking on how he was feeling very depressed since leaving Edward Eagle Lodge and actually going into temporary accommodation. And was finding himself very isolated. But he didn't want to come to the Bible study because he didn't want to hear any of this Jesus stuff. So I said, okay, we'll just come into our Bible study and have a breakfast sandwich with us on a Tuesday morning and just be part of the community. We're not asking you to sign up to anything. So he did. And he was encouraged because he saw other people there who he knew. And week by week, the first time he came, he had his earphones in, so he didn't have to hear what was being preached. And we thought the second week he took one earphone out, so we thought that was progress. And 6 weeks later, he's accepted prayer from us, and he doesn't think we're quite so strange now. But he said, I don't know what's going on here yet, but I'm holding on to some hope that I find in community.
Great. That's a journey, and that's super. You next.
I was glad that Lucy went first, but I did think of a lady immediately when you asked that question, a young lady, mild intellectual disability, strong Christian woman, but been through some terrible trauma. And, she just skirts on the edge of life, literally. It's like she just clings onto life. She's had multiple suicide attempts. She just skirts and just grips for... And the thing that keeps her hanging on is hope. She says to me, David, maybe one day it'll be different. And of course I keep reinforcing that, and she's got a whole group of people around her that do the same. It's not just me, but there's a whole group of people that reinforce it. But it's the hope that maybe one day this will change. And, us constantly bringing those messages back to her. And, I can't underestimate the power of her thinking that maybe one day this will be better. And that's hope for me in a crystal nutshell right there. And it literally has saved this woman's life on multiple occasions.
Two fantastic stories.
Sorry to spoil it. I don't want to go here, but I can't my mind won't land on the people that I know through work. It's fixated on myself. So my own experience of this with a sick child for a couple of years, and the experience of, I described this a little bit before, but family and friends and churches and employers and schools, and then schools we knew nothing about and churches we knew nothing about, and strangers and doing things for us just to let us know that we were being thought of. It was all a reassurance of and a metaphor of God's love for us. And there was a toy that James would take to hospital each time we went, who we went through everything with him, but when he went into the theatre, we would leave, but Meow would stay with him. So there was a sense in which Meow had been even closer to everything than us. And then the night before one of these procedures, we went to Flower Power, and when we got home, Meow wasn't there and we couldn't find him anywhere. So anyway, long story short, we thought Meow was lost, and we found Meow. The next day he was there, the cleaners hadn't thrown him out. And it was just strange that Meow had become this metaphor for all of those other things that I described, that were alone, appeared token. Most of the things that we were given, many of the things we did need, but a lot of the things we didn't, and people knew that, but they said, we want to do it because we can't think of anything else to do and we just want you to know. And all of that wrapped together became a very powerful reassurance of the intimacy of God's care and presence in that circumstance.
Thank you. Rob has been a living example in the Wesley Mission family of somebody who's been on a journey. But all of us, really, I think almost we should be able to say name, job that we do. We might, if we wanted to, in some way add to it qualifications, whatever that means. But there's another line, and that's our lived experience. And I'm hoping that many young people are here tonight. I hope that they're listening, because you never know when life is going to turn in one direction or another. It's at those moments that you prove hope. So let's thank these guys for sharing with us something of their experience tonight. Thank you. Thanks ever so much. Super.